Princess Diana wore some of the most famous jewelry in the world. When she died, every single piece went somewhere. Some went to William, some went to Harry, some went back to the crown, some disappeared. And the story of where each piece ended up tells you more about the royal family's power dynamics than any interview ever could. Let me show you where every piece is right now, and why it matters. But before we trace a single ring or tiara, you need to understand something that almost every other video about Diana's jewelry gets wrong. Not slightly wrong, fundamentally, structurally wrong, in a way that makes everything else they tell you unreliable. There are 3 completely different categories of royal jewelry. Confuse them, and the entire map falls apart. First tier, the crown jewels, state regalia, locked in the Tower of London, the Imperial State Crown, the sovereign's orb, St. Edward's crown. They belong to the nation. No royal can sell them, gift them, or leave them in a will. Diana never wore any of these, so we can set them aside entirely. Second tier, the royal collection. This is an enormous treasury of tiaras, necklaces, brooches, and suites of jewelry accumulated over centuries, held by the sovereign in right of the crown. These pieces get loaned out to members of the royal family at the monarch's discretion, and the key word there is loaned. When the Queen handed Diana a tiara for a state banquet, Diana wore it for the evening and gave it back. She had no more claim to it than you have to a library book. These pieces were never Diana's. They never appeared in her will. They were never divided between her sons. And yet, video after video describes crown-owned tiaras as Diana's tiaras. That's just flat out wrong. Third tier, personal jewelry. Pieces that individual royals actually own. Gifts from family, personal purchases, heirlooms from their own bloodline. When Diana's father gave her a Spencer family piece, that was hers. When she bought a bracelet, that was hers. These are the pieces that went into her estate, that her executors divided, and that ended up with William, Harry, and the Spencer family. Hold that framework in your mind. Every single placement on this map starts to tell a story about power. So let's start with the most famous piece of jewelry on Earth. February 1981. Something happened inside the Gerrard showroom at 112 Regent Street that quietly rattled the palace. Lady Diana Spencer, 19 years old, about to become the most photographed woman alive, was presented with a selection of engagement rings. She chose one straight out of the catalog, not a bespoke commission, not a priceless heirloom pulled from the royal vaults. She pointed at a 12-carat oval Ceylon sapphire surrounded by 14 solitaire diamonds set in 18-carat white gold from Gerrard's regular retail line. Cost? £28,500. Anyone with that money could have walked in off the street and bought the exact same ring. The palace was reportedly not pleased. Royal engagement rings were supposed to be unique, designed exclusively, touched by no other eye before the reveal. Diana broke that convention entirely. Whether it was naivety or a quiet act of independence, it set a pattern that would define her entire relationship with the institution. She'd do things her way, and the jewelry would always tell the story. The sapphire itself is Sri Lankan, Ceylon sapphires, as the gem trade still calls them, displaying the deep royal blue that is the most prized color grade in fine sapphires. Gerrard set it in a cluster design deliberately reminiscent of a brooch that belonged to Queen Victoria, 14 round, brilliant-cut diamonds forming a halo around the central stone. When Charles slipped it onto Diana's finger for the engagement announcement on 24th February 1981, nearly every newspaper in the Western world ran the photograph. It became the most famous engagement ring on the planet overnight. It has never given up that title. Now here's where it gets emotionally loaded. After Diana's death on 31st August 1997, when William and Harry were old enough to choose personal mementos from their mother's collection. It was Harry, not William, who initially selected the sapphire ring. William reportedly chose their mother's Cartier tank watch. Years later, when William decided he wanted to propose to Catherine Middleton, Harry offered to swap. In the 2017 ITV documentary, Diana, Our Mother, Her Life and Legacy, Harry described it as wanting his mother's ring to be part of the moment it was always meant for, on a future queen's hand. William proposed in October 2010 during a trip to Kenya, producing the ring in the remote setting of a log cabin near Mount Kenya. The engagement was announced publicly on 16 November 2010, and Catherine's first appearance wearing it sent global media into a frenzy of side-by-side photographs. Diana's hand in 1981, Catherine's hand in 2010. The same 12-carat sapphire bridging 3 decades and 2 very different women. The ring was reportedly adjusted slightly to fit Catherine's finger. No stones were altered or reset. It remains exactly as Gerard made it, exactly as Diana chose it. And here's what that transfer, from Diana to Harry to William to Catherine, actually represents. It's the single most important symbolic transaction in modern royal jewelry history. Legitimacy passed forward. The institution continues, the line holds, and Diana's legacy lives inside the monarchy, not outside it. That ring is doing political work every time Catherine raises her hand. Now let's talk about who really controls Diana's legacy. And it isn't the crown. The sapphire and pearl choker is one of the most visually striking pieces Diana ever wore. A multi-strand pearl choker with a large sapphire and diamond centerpiece. The centerpiece, a large oval sapphire encircled by diamonds, was originally a brooch given to Diana by Queen Elizabeth as a wedding gift. Diana had Gerard reset it as the clasp of this dramatic choker. Classic Diana. Take something conventional and make it something nobody at the palace had ever seen. But she went further. At a state dinner in Melbourne during the 1985 Royal Tour of Australia, she wore the choker as a headband, wrapped it across her forehead with a one-shouldered white dress. The image became one of the most reproduced photographs of her entire public life. Here's what matters right now. This piece hasn't been seen on any member of the royal family since Diana's death. Not on Catherine, not on Camilla, not on anyone. The ownership trail points clearly toward the Spencer family, or the inheritance held by Diana's sons. Either way, the crown doesn't have it. And this brings us to one of the most telling patterns in the entire inventory. Not one single piece of Diana's personal jewelry has ever appeared on Queen Camilla. Not one. The crown-owned pieces that Diana wore on loan, like certain tiaras, have been steered toward Catherine, not Camilla. The personal pieces Diana actually owned are with her sons or with the Spencers. The result is a complete exclusion zone around Camilla when it comes to Diana's collection. And whether that's driven by the Spencer family's control, by the palace's own political instincts, or by Camilla's personal choice, the visual effect is absolute. Diana's personal collection exists in a space Camilla does not enter. Now let me show you the distinction that matters more than any other fact in this entire video. The one practically every source gets backwards. The Cambridge Lover's Knot Tiara. If you picture Diana in a tiara, this is probably the one you see. 19 diamond arches, each suspending a hanging oriental pearl, with diamond spacers between each arch. Gerard made it in 1914 on commission from Queen Mary, who wanted a replica of a tiara that had belonged to her grandmother, Princess Augusta of Hesse. It's spectacular. Diana wore it dozens of times. She reportedly found it heavy and said it gave her headaches. And it was never hers, not for 1 second. Crown property, loaned to Diana by Queen Elizabeth for the duration of her marriage. After the divorce was finalized on the 28th of August 1996, it went straight back to the royal vaults. No negotiation, no discussion. Catherine first wore it publicly on 22nd October 2015 at a diplomatic reception at Buckingham Palace. She doesn't own it either. She wears it because the sovereign decided to lend it to her. First under Queen Elizabeth, now under King Charles. An institutional choice. The power of the crown to bestow and reclaim. Now compare that with the Spencer tiara. This is the tiara Diana actually wore on her wedding day, 29th of July, 1981, down the aisle of St. Paul's Cathedral, before a global television audience of 750 million people. The enormous ivory silk taffeta dress, the 25-foot train, and that delicate floral tiara. It is not crown property, has never been crown property. It belongs to the Spencer family and has for generations, remodeled into its current form by Gerard in 1919, incorporating elements from several earlier Spencer family pieces, a central motif of tulips and star-shaped flowers rendered in diamonds. After Diana's death, it went straight back to Althorpe, the Spencer estate in Northamptonshire, and it was worn again publicly in June 2018 when Diana's niece Celia McCorkadale chose it for her own wedding. A deliberate echo. Nobody missed it. So here's the teaching moment. The tiara everyone calls Diana's, the Cambridge lover's knot, was never hers. The tiara Diana actually had a claim to, the Spencer, is the one most people wrongly assume belongs to the crown. Getting this right isn't trivia. It's the key to reading every other placement on this map. Let's move through William's full personal collection now, because the pattern is unmistakable. Beyond the engagement ring, Catherine has been photographed wearing several pieces from Diana's personal jewelry with careful, deliberate frequency. Diana's sapphire and diamond earrings. Oval sapphires surrounded by diamond clusters in a drop setting, designed to complement the engagement ring, have been worn by Catherine on numerous occasions. She had them redesigned as longer pendant drops hanging from diamond-set hooks, modernizing the silhouette while preserving the original stones. First public appearance in the modified form. The 2011 Royal Tour of North America. They've appeared at diplomatic events, charity galas, and state dinners ever since. That alteration is worth noting. It says something. I'm honoring this, but I'm making it mine. Diana's South Sea pearl earrings, lustrous drop pearls suspended from diamond-set caps, migrated to Catherine's jewelry box as well. She wore them during the 2018 tour of the Netherlands and on several occasions after. The Collingwood pearl necklace deserves specific mention here. It's a heart-shaped pearl and diamond piece given to Diana as a wedding gift in 1981 by the Collingwood jewelry firm. It's been associated with Catherine as well, though it appears less frequently than the sapphire earrings, representing the same inheritance pathway, personal gift to Diana, then through the estate to William, then deployed on Catherine at carefully chosen moments. Diana's 3-strand pearl bracelet has appeared on Catherine's wrist at formal events. William also inherited Diana's Cartier Tank Française watch, a gold piece Diana wore almost daily in her later years. William's been spotted wearing it on occasion, one of the few Diana pieces worn by a son rather than a daughter-in-law. The pattern across all of William's pieces is strategic. They appear on Catherine at events carrying institutional weight, state visits, diplomatic receptions, Commonwealth functions. These aren't casual accessories. They're deployments. They say, without a single word spoken, that Diana's presence lives on inside the monarchy, that the future queen carries her forward. Every appearance is a photograph. Every photograph is a message. Harry's collection tells a completely different story. After the swap that sent the sapphire engagement ring to William, Harry retained other pieces, though the complete list has never been officially confirmed. What we know comes from public appearances. The first major moment, the engagement ring Harry designed for Meghan Markle, revealed in November 2017. A central diamond sourced from Botswana, flanked by two smaller, round, brilliant-cut diamonds taken directly from Diana's personal collection. Harry designed it himself with the jeweler Cleave & Company. He was explicit about why. He wanted his mother to be part of the moment she'd never lived to see. Then came the wedding evening. On the 19th of May, 2018, after the ceremony at St. George's Chapel, Meghan changed into a Stella McCartney gown for the reception at Frogmore House and appeared wearing Diana's aquamarine ring, a striking emerald-cut aquamarine set in 24-karat yellow gold made by Asprey. Large, immediately recognizable, worn with visible pride, a statement of belonging. Meghan has continued to wear the aquamarine ring at public events since, including after relocating to the United States. Diana's butterfly earrings, gold and diamond studs in a butterfly motif, were worn by Meghan during the 2018 Royal Tour of Australia. She's also been photographed with a gold cuff bracelet from Diana's collection on multiple occasions, both as a working royal and after the departure. And here's where the geography becomes the story. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties in January 2020 and relocated to Montecito, California, their possessions went with them. There's no public reporting that any pieces were requested back by the palace. These were Harry's by legal inheritance, not by institutional loan. The Crown has no authority to reclaim them, but the fact is stark. Pieces of Diana's jewelry now reside in a house in Southern California, 6,000 miles from Kensington Palace. They appear not at state banquets, but at American events, Netflix premieres, magazine shoots. Whether you see that as liberation or loss depends entirely on where you stand. But the geographic reality is undeniable. Harry's pieces have left the building. They aren't coming back. The Spencer family holdings go beyond the tiara. They retain the Spencer family diamond and pearl drop necklace, an heirloom that predates Diana's marriage entirely. Diana wore it on several occasions, but it was always Spencer property, never part of the Windsor orbit. These pieces appear at Spencer family weddings and christenings, never at royal functions, never on loan to the Crown. Charles Spencer, the 9th Earl, has maintained the collection at Althorpe with the same quiet determination his sister brought to everything she did. On this map, the Spencers occupy their own sovereign territory. Now for the pieces that vanished, and the one that ended up somewhere nobody could have predicted. The Atala Cross. This is where royal history slams straight into contemporary pop culture. A large pendant featuring a row of square-cut amethysts set in gold and bordered by diamonds, made by Gerard in the 1920s. It was never Diana's property. It belonged to Naim Atala, a Palestinian-British businessman and publisher who was close to Diana and lent her the piece for a charity gala at Sotheby's in October 1987. Diana wore it on a multi-strand pearl choker with a high-necked Catherine Walker dress. One photograph, one evening. That single image became one of the most reproduced of her entire life. After Atala died in 2021, his estate sent the cross to Sotheby's. It went under the hammer in London on the 18th of January, 2023. Pre-sale estimate, £100,000 to £200,000. It sold for approximately £163,800. To Kim Kardashian. The reality television star outbid several buyers to claim a piece Diana wore exactly once, 36 years earlier. Kardashian has since been photographed wearing the cross. Diana never owned the Atala cross. Its entire value was its association with her. And now, that association belongs to someone Diana never met, in a world she couldn't have imagined. That's what happens when personal legacy meets the open market. Gifts from foreign heads of state occupy a particularly complicated legal space. Diplomatic gifts to members of the British royal family are generally considered to belong to the crown or the nation, not to the individual recipient. Diana received significant jewelry from Gulf state royal families, including a sapphire and diamond suite from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, presented as a wedding gift. The current status of these diplomatic pieces isn't fully transparent. They represent one of the genuine blind spots in any complete inventory. Pieces that may be in crown storage may have been retained by Diana under the divorce settlement terms, or may sit in legal limbo between personal and national ownership. Nobody talks about these, partly because nobody knows for certain. Let me account for the remaining pieces, because I promised every piece, and I meant it. Diana's 4-row Japanese pearl choker, part of her personal collection, has not been publicly worn since her death and is believed to be held within the son's inheritance. Diana's gray pearl necklace, an unusual piece she favored in the 1990s, remains in private hands, likely within the son's inheritance, though it hasn't been publicly worn since her death. Her simple pearl stud earrings, the ones she wore constantly in casual settings, are likely among the personal keepsakes divided between the boys. The gold charm bracelet, the assorted brooches and bangles photographed across 16 years of public life. These pieces haven't vanished, so much as gone quiet. They sit in drawers, in safes, in family vaults. Not every piece carries the symbolic weight of an engagement ring or a tiara. Some are simply possessions of a woman who wore them because she liked them. But step back. Look at the full map. William's pieces are on Catherine at state events. Continuity, legitimacy. The institution absorbing Diana's legacy and wearing it forward. Harry's pieces crossed an ocean. Exile made tangible, measured in 6,000 miles. The Spencer pieces sit in family vaults at Althorpe, beyond the crown's reach, a family that refuses to surrender their daughter entirely. The crown loans rotate through the royal collection, assigned to whichever princess serves the institution's needs. And the Atala cross sits in Kim Kardashian's collection. Because the 21st century is strange like that. The pieces the crown controls were never Diana's at all. They belonged to the institution before her, during her, and after her. Diana wore them. She never owned them. That distinction between wearing power and owning it is the real story of every single piece. And these pieces are still moving, still being worn, still telling the story. Catherine deploys a new Diana piece, and the front pages light up. Meghan appears in the aquamarine ring, and comment sections explode. A Spencer niece walks down the aisle in the family tiara, and everyone understands exactly what it means. The map isn't finished yet. If you found this useful, subscribe. There are more stories like this one coming.